Can smoothies make you fat? Part 2.
Ask Yuri. You've got a health and fitness question? I've got an answer.
Hey, Yuri here with you today, and I've got a great question. It's actually a follow-up question to a previous video that I was answering a question to in respect to smoothies. And so this is coming from Martin, and I'm going to paraphrase this if I can remember all of it. Again, I'll post the question up here. But essentially Martin's asking, he's been using green smoothies or making green smoothies for a while now, and he's been noticing he's been accumulating a little bit of extra belly fat, and he's wondering, is it the smoothie that is causing this? Because the smoothies that he's using might have a higher glycemic load than perhaps what's recommended. And this is a really interesting thing to investigate and kind of, look at. So we're going to kind of investigate this together, if you will. So essentially what he's been putting into smoothies is some greens powder, avocado, grapefruits, and dates. And right when I saw that recipe, I started getting a little bit of a yellow flag, a bit of a warning, because when I look at things like dates, they are obviously very high on the glycemic side of things. I mean, they're great occasionally, but to be doing a daily smoothie with, I think you mentioned 4 dates, that's quite a bit. So he mentioned that the glycemic load of that specific smoothie was 32. And the glycemic load of the smoothie without the dates is 20. And the glycemic load is essentially like an aggregate of how much sugar in terms of the glycemic index of the different foods in your meal would make up the glycemic load of that specific meal. So if you had like a protein and a fat and a carbohydrate, that would mitigate the glycemic load a little bit because of those different buffers being the protein and fat. If you had just straight sugar, the glycemic load would be quite a bit higher. Anyways, so the recommended, according to his question, the recommended daily load, glycemic load is about 100. And I'm not too sure if that's true or not. I'm not too sure where that comes from. But, obviously it's a good thing to lower that number as much as possible because we don't want too much. Obviously, the less glycemic load we have, the better. So is the smoothie too intense in terms of glycemic load? Personally, I think it is. And again, like 4 dates, 2 grapefruits, I think you mentioned as well. Those are pretty high sweet things. Personally, I don't even add bananas to my smoothies anymore, just because I find the banana, it really doesn't work well with my body. So most of the smoothies that I'm making now, for the most part, are green smoothies focused around green vegetables, like leafy green vegetables, and maybe an apple and pear, which are kind of lower on the sweetness side, on the glycemic side, just for obviously a consistency as well as a bit of flavor. And then on the other side of the equation, I've got more of my berry smoothies. So I use a lot of berries, a lot. I mean, I think I'm a berry monster. Kind of like my shirt here. This actually used to be red, but because of all the blueberries I eat, it's turned blue. Pretty interesting, right? Not really. That's a pretty corny joke. Anyways, maybe I'll just cut that out of the whole video. So I've got my berry smoothies where I'll put in a lot of berries and a lot of other things. But again, the glycemic load, because berries are very low on the glycemic index, the glycemic load there is very, very kind of minimal. So whether you're making smoothies or eating foods in general, that's why I'm not a huge fan of a lot of these raw food, high fruit diets, because they're eating copious amounts of dates, bananas, mangoes. I mean, foods that are awesome, but in small quantities. Right? You need to focus on the lower glycemic foods, the lower glycemic fruit, like berries, apples, pears, as far as I'm concerned. The tropical fruit are awesome, but again, in moderation. And really the big focus needs to be on the green vegetables. That's where the real health benefits come from. So Martin, hopefully that helps you out. I do believe that could be part of it, but I'm not too sure if that's the whole story. And I would look at kind of minimizing the amount of dates, grapefruits, and stuff like that. Add in some berries instead as a way of getting a little bit more overall quality nutrition and a bit of sweetness. So there we go. Are the smoothies making you fat? Tough to know, but it could be part of it. Again, reduce the sugar content, and it should be a lot better.